Let the magic of radio take you there now. Alice's attention was drawn back to the 3 hunters in the martlet's upper wing. Bright lights flashed with audible hisses and then formed steady beams which began to sweep through the night. Alice had seen gas-powered searchlights before, their bright angular tentacles probing the night from land-based positions along the coast. It was much scarier this time. The lights closer by, the beams eager to find and light up the sky skiffs. "Goggles!" Tucknut said. Alice slipped her goggles over her eyes. The searchlight beams had already diminished their night vision, but if the martlet was caught in one of the beams, the crew would be temporarily blinded precisely at the moment when every second counted. The sweeping beams came ever closer as the hunters continued to gain on their quarry. Alice could hear the searchlights hissing. The helm tried to twist its way out of Alice's hands with sudden jerks, jarring her hands as she struggled to retain control. Furling the exposed canvas of the dorsals became a struggle for Tucknut and Brock. And then a fight as the sails whipped violently to and fro. Alice wrestled with the helm. Adjustments were needed to prevent the sky skiff slipping sideways from the sheer, because that would send them plummeting down in a spin. Anticipating the wild movements of the vessel was one thing. Countering them at the helm when the helm itself seemed to want to move in the opposite direction was another. Alice clenched her jaws so as not to scream when the polished wood began to rub the skin off her palms and fingers. Tucknut and the Hastings man would be having just as rough a time of it, if not worse. If anyone let go of helm or cable, the martlet would become uncontrollable. The awful pitching stopped at last when the hull sank below the sheer. For a fraction of a second, all was calm. But then the aeroship jolted forwards, jerked in that direction by the envelope still within the sheer. The masts creaking dangerously. Alice waited until the last of the dorsal sails was furled and the booms swung in. Then she adjusted the steering vanes to gently guide them down out of the sheer altogether. That was the easy bit. Now for the hard part. "Where fall?" she hollered. "Aye, aye, where fall?" With the whole aeroship now out of the sheer, the martlet groaned and creaked as it shuddered to a much lower speed and, as expected, stalled. Veered to larboard, the deck tilting sharply as the aeroship plunged downwards. Another aeroship came barreling down from above, trailing screams and flames. It was the Joseph Swain. Envelope shredded, and stern enveloped by fire so intense Alice could feel its heat on her face. The burning sky skiff was followed by one of the other hunters. The 2 sky skiffs were going to collide. Alice reached out to grasp the railing, but the martlet began to roll over, and Alice slid down the near vertical deck to slam hard and painfully against the larboard railing. The Gatling guns of the 2 hunters continued to hammer the stricken sky skiffs. The Joseph Swain's bowsprit splintered when it struck the martlet's keel amidships, but the rest of the bow crashed through the Martin's hull. The shockwave of the impact sent Alice tumbling overboard, falling. The sky skiffs disappeared in an explosion of noise, flames, splinters, water, and mud. Alice braced herself for a bone-breaking encounter with the ground, but she landed into something cold and wet instead. A tidal channel, half filled with seawater. The force of her landing thrust her face hard into the cloying mud. Alice gagged as her mouth filled with the filthy stuff, smelling and tasting of decomposition. Coughing, she thrashed out with her arms. Her blistered hands found pollens of grass, and despite the intense pain, she held onto them with all her might, and then pulled herself out of the channel to scramble onto more solid ground. "What's your name?" the boy asked. "Bliss." Alice automatically gave her free trade code name. "Yours?" "Pip." He started to answer. He looked embarrassed. "Free traders call me Pipsqueak." The expression on his face as he said that last was so comical that Alice couldn't help but giggle, feeling almost instantly guilty considering the grim circumstances. "Sorry," she said. "'Twere the look on your face." "Don't matter." Pip smiled awkwardly. "I'm a bit small for 13. My mama says I'll get me a growth spurt and become just as big as..." The boy looked towards the fire, swallowing a sob. "Harold." "I'll call you Pip," Alice said. She got to her feet, slowly to make the movement less painful, and reached out for his hand, tugging at it. "Pip, we have to go. Get away from the fire. Those roses are turning. They'll be heading our way again." She could tell as much by the sounds of their engines, but she sensed them as well. The foul craft had been imprinted on her mind now. She wondered if they might have seen Pip as they flew over, or even herself, despite her fresh coat of mud that was now rapidly drying in the heat of the flames. A chill shuddered through Alice despite that warmth. The Rotters might know there were survivors. "There's no point." Pip stared into the fire despondently. "We'll never outrun them. I'd just keep on coming. I'd rather stay here with..." Alice understood all too well. It was only a short moment ago that she'd felt the same, but finding Pip had changed things. She reckoned that if she could ensure his survival, it might atone for her earlier moment of distraction that had cost them so dearly.
5 skies cliff slicing through the dark. Brandy for the parson, baccy for the clerk, laces for the lady, lifters for the spy, crystal for the clocker and the tea for the dry. Watch the floor, my darling, the hours on the side. See the skiff engine splutter into life. Slippery and sly, rich and friends are quick to find. Outsmarting all the rosas, skicing in the sky. Battered old top hat on with a hat pin. Little Miss Hawkeye armed with distraction. Awfully partial to part of the action. Close up shot, she's armed with contraptions. If you need a cover, then you need to have a plan. Now a man who knows a woman with her hands on contraband. Keep it quiet from Her Majesty or you may lose a hand. This is deadly serious, with me you need to stand. Try not to look so obvious, you chuckle-headed dunce. Yargot's a better moat than I will only tell you once. She runs a crop after dark, off with the lark. Stay absolutely silent and you just play your part. Them that ask no questions isn't told a lie. So keep your wheres and who's, your hows and whens and whys. Better motor see none, don't ask none more. Keep the Smugglepunk secret in your heart forevermore. 25 skies cliff slicing through the dark. Brandy for the parson, baccy for the clerk, laces for the lady, lifters for the spy, Crystal for the clocker and the tea for the dry. 25 skies cliff slicing through the dark. Brandy for the parson, baccy for the clerk. Leases for the lady, lifters for the spy. Crystal for the clocker and the tea for the dry. 25 skies cliffs. Brandy for the parson. Leases for the lady. Crystal for the clocker. Slicing through the dark.